So I'm going to begin by talking about Dykes to Watch Out For, my comic strip. Oh, I'm Alison Bechdel, in case you're
I'm Michelle Paradise. I'm here for Velvetpark, and I am the executive producer, writer, and one of the stars of X's and O's, which is the new lesbian series on Logo. And I am here with Alison Bechdel, who is, I have to get I'm not sure about do you call yourselves like graphic novelists or cartoonists or illustrators?
I call myself a cartoonist.
Excellent. A cartoonist. I would hate to say something offensive.
Some people think cartoon is an offensive word, but I don't.
So is there a difference though between cartoonists and illustrators?
I'm like the kind of cartoonist who writes and draws my own material. The kind of mainstream comics that this convention focuses on, those people like do all kind, like it's all broken down. One person pencils, one person inks, one person writes it, one person comes up with the concept, one person sells it to Hollywood. It's all very assembly line, but I'm like an auteur. I do everything myself.
Yeah, I've seen your stuff. I mean, I'll get to your book in a minute, which I thought was phenomenal, by the way. But in case some of the viewers don't know, you've done a strip for like 24 years now, right?
Yes.
Dykes to Watch Out For?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about it and how that came about?
Dykes to Watch Out For is a comic strip I've been doing all of my adult life because I as a young lesbian, I wanted to see pictures of people who looked like me. And I set about making them myself. And I just kept doing it. For some reason, other people liked it. I eventually was able to actually make a living off of it, and here I am.
And do you see yourself continuing that strip for...
Until I keel over at my drawing board, yes.
Until you keel over and die.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know you also pull, I mean, not just from life itself, but you also pull from politics and like what's going on in the world outside of these characters as well.
I like to think of it as half soap opera and half editorial cartoon.
You have a blog where you put some of the more recent things you've been working on. I'm just wondering what it's like for kids these days who are coming up gay, who now have reflections of themselves that they can see.
Isn't that wild? I had to read the frickin' Well of Loneliness when I was coming out. Now they have comics.
Yeah, but do you ever hear from people who have found your comics and
yes,
and that's...
I do. I get very heart-rending, touching letters from people who say these are like the first lesbians they ever met.
Oh.
That's always very touching. I like that.
You're also here because of your book. It's called Fun Home. It's excellent. I have to tell you, I sat down to read it and then I didn't get up for like 3.5 hours. I sat in this coffee shop and read the whole thing straight through. And at the end, I was in a coffee shop and tears were rolling down my face. It was really amazing. I listened to an interview that you did with NPR, and they were asking if your family, you know, because you talk a lot about your family in there as well. Did you ever have any? Did you ask them for permission, or did you let them see anything ahead of time?
Yes. It's a very, very personal, intimate book about my closeted gay dad who I think killed himself. He died when I was 19. He was hit by a truck, and I'm pretty sure it was suicide. So it's incredibly intimate material, and I knew I couldn't. Of course, I had to tell my family I was doing this, and I did. And they were a little taken aback, my mother and my two brothers. They didn't quite understand why I wanted to air this dirty linen, as they saw it, but I felt like it was a very important story, and I wanted to do it. And they didn't try to stop me. They were cool with it. I showed them drafts as I went along, and but then when it actually came out and got a lot of attention, it was kind of difficult for them, for my family. Because they figured it would be just like, as I did, that it would be sort of like my Dykes to Watch Out For books, where a very small audience would see them. But now everyone is reading. Yeah, it's... my mother's friends were reading it, so it's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's in case you're not familiar with the book, it's Time Magazine's top book, like #1 book of 2006.
Not graphic book.
Not book. I know. That's which is amazing. Like
awesome.
All the books that have come out in 2006, not just the graphic novels, but all the books. And yours is the #1 book.
Yes, but not to be self-deprecating. I think that's very much a function of this particular moment in the history of comics and what's going on with comics finally being embraced as a legitimate art form. And I think my book happened along at a very propitious moment.
It took you 7 years, right?
Yes.
Wow. And how many drafts did you go through? Like, was
Oh God, I don't even know, because it wasn't even an organized process. It was just chaos. It was like, I have about 18 crates of material left over from it.
That's amazing. And you're here at Comic-Con. You have 3 awards that you're up for.
Yes.
Which is pretty incredible.
It is. I'm trying not to think about that. It's a little nerve-wracking. The Eisner Award, the big comics industry awards ceremony.
Yeah, they're like it's like the Academy Awards or the Emmy Awards for comics.
Yeah.
And you're up for 3.
Yes.
Which again, if you could look around, you would see that there's a lot of men here. Like it seems like a very male-dominated kind of thing. And as you know, as a woman to be kind of breaking through, do you feel like a vanguard?
Really, I've always felt like an outsider. I've never been to this convention. As a cartoonist, I evolved pretty much within the gay and lesbian publishing world, like in gay and lesbian newspapers, and then a small lesbian press published my books. So I was never in the comic book shops. I never, have been part of this world. But now, kind of like I'm getting kind of grandfathered in. Like I count now as a cartoonist in a way that I didn't in the early '80s, when this was totally like 14-year-old boys and X-Men and whatever. And so in terms of the Eisners, I haven't really been thinking about them because it hasn't been really on my radar. But now all of a sudden, I'm quite anxious about it.
But you're working on a new one in spite of all of that.
Yes, I can't seem to stop.
Can you, now I don't know anything about this new one. Are you allowed to say anything about it, or?
Yeah, I keep talking about it, but I should probably just be quiet because it's all very in the early stages. But it's going to be about self and other. I say that to people and they look at me kind of blankly, so then I say, it's going to be about my relationship history. Oh. Then they sort of perk up, just like
Excellent.
that.
Juicy. Excellent. Now, how long do you expect this one to take?
Well, I signed a contract that says I have to turn it in 2.5 years. More like 2 years at this point. So.
Wow. So we're going to be cutting this interview short right now because she's going to go to work. Thank you so much. I know you've got a lot going on here, and there's a lot to see, and so thanks for taking some time and chatting.
You're very welcome.